It works. Hello.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to our special Instagram Live. My apologies for a small barking dog in the background. She's having a moment. So, I am Jennifer, and this is Guillermo,
Hello.
and we are absolutely thrilled to be here with you today. It is Friday, July 11th, and we are in Terracini at our home. You can see the mountains right back behind us, and you will hear our puppies in the front. So we know it's Friday morning. Our apologies. I got a little confused on the time. So we hope you're able to get a nice cocktail or maybe a mocktail. Today we are going to be drinking a Inzolia Chardonnay. This is local from Quinones, right here in Licata, Sicily. So something lovely. Share with us what you guys are drinking this morning. Maybe a nice iced latte. Maybe a mimosa because it's almost the weekend. So anyway, grab your favorite drink and let's get going. So for those of you that might be new to Via Monday or are kind of wondering about what's going on here, right? We were originally Italian citizenship concierge. However, as many of you know, Italian citizenship has changed so much in the last 9 to 12 months with the new laws, the new circulars, and so many things happening behind the scenes with the government that we really felt like it was time to unveil what we've been working on behind the scenes since 2021. And that is to bring you to Europe. Our goal has always been to get you to Europe. In fact, I am an American born with Italian citizenship, and Guillermo?
I'm Spanish.
Right? So perfect combination. Also, Guillermo is a Spanish attorney. So Guillermo leads up our Spain operations. And in Spain, we can do just about everything we can do in Italy. So it's really exciting. So we're going to talk about that as we go through. But we want you to think about, what is your La Dolce Vita? Is that in Italy? Is that in Spain? Is it maybe in France, Portugal, Spain, Germany? Where do you think you're going to be thriving abroad? We know, and I know from my own personal history, that after the first election of Donald Trump, things felt very frightening to me. I am from the Midwest. I'm actually from St. Louis originally. And the things that I heard people saying out loud were things that had previously been behind closed doors. Well, we made it through Trump 1.0. We got through Biden, and now here we are, and things are changing. And so many of you are coming to us, and saying, you want an option, you want a backup plan, or you're ready to move because you don't like the way things are going. Maybe, economically things are getting a little bit tighter, and so you're ready for something new. And so we want you to ask your questions here. Some of you have already submitted some questions, so we're going to start there, and we're going to break this down category by category. But you can still ask questions live, and we'd love to answer them. So let's get started first with citizenship by descent. This is the heart of who we are at Via Monday, and let's start with those. So first question that I have that we get. Can you really help trace lineage and manage complex court cases? Absolutely. This is where we thrive. Our team is based both here in Italy as well as in the United States, but we're not just limited to the US. We can also work in Canada and the UK, of course, and Australia. We've got partners that assist us with those documents and those collections. Now, when we're talking about a complex case, right? We see complex cases sometimes that maybe have an out-of-wedlock born child, a divorce, maybe multiple divorces, name changes. This is really popular with those Americanizations of names. Our team works on that behind the scenes, both in the US and Italy, to rectify those issues, to sometimes find supplementing documents that aren't on the consulate list. Sometimes they have to get a name changed or amended, working with our partners in the US legally to change those names through a declaratory judgment, or also sometimes amending an OKA. But let's ask the lawyer, because he's here. How do the judges view these Americanizations of names or the missing middle names that disappear and come and go along the line? What is the feeling from these Italian judges about the names?
Well, unlike the consulates, they have more flexibility, so they have some leeway to consider if they see that there is a strong argument to see that all the names coincide. They can be more flexible than a consulate. However, now at this moment they require a more consolidated approach between the differences on the names. So you have to prepare it a little harder than before in order to make it a little more compact. So that's also some work that we try to do, or we work with the clients to prepare that and advise them on that.
So the courts, just like the consulate, what Guillermo is saying is the courts, just like the consulates, right? In the past, there was a lot of leeway, and those Americanizations were fine. But now Guillermo and his team of Italian lawyers, they're starting to see the judges want more clarity, right? Yes. So when he's saying compact, they want more clarity. They want to see that Giuseppe is Joseph. They want definitive proof. Or Mary Louise, who was maybe born Mary, is in fact Mary and not someone else named Mary Louise with a confirmation middle name. So these are really important things. And so it really depends. Do you think, does it matter court by court, or is there a general answer that we can give people?
Of course, I think there is a general answer that you have to be more prepared on this consolidation of names. However, the courts in the north are a little more inflexible on that, while the courts in the south usually have a little more flexibility.
Yeah, so where we live in the south, right? And we even see this with Comune when somebody is applying here in Italy, that for many times the north is much more hardline. They want exact. Think more like the Germans in the north, where in the south, they tend to be a little bit more flexible. They tend to be a little more relaxed. Now, that's not to say that you can go in with incorrect names and a lot of problems. They will want some clarity and consistency throughout. But typically, the South tends to be a little bit more favorable.
Yes.
Okay? And so that's something really important to keep in mind, right? So let's talk about then, our next question is, this sounds like a lot. Where do I get started? I think I'm eligible, but there's been so many changes. I have grandparents. I have some great-grandparents. What do I do? Where do I start, right? And so the first thing you do, right, would that be come to a lawyer and say, hey, I might have some grandparents or great-grandparents. Do I come to the lawyer first, or what is your recommendation?
Well, I think it's better to talk to our document people so that they can have a more clear structure of because, well, if you don't have enough documents, no matter, it's not only a question about legality, it's about availability of documents. I think this should be rule number one.
Yeah, so and I would agree with that, right? We see this a lot of times out in the socials, right? Somebody contacted a lawyer to try to determine if they're eligible. Well, the problem with that is, many times these lawyers don't have enough information. They're Italian attorneys, and they work with complete sets of documents. They're not in the business of trying to determine, are you eligible, right? And so Guillermo and his team, they want to see your documents come to them first. So the first step is to talk to your document team, talk to your document provider, or if you're going to do more of a DIY approach, great. Yes. Do a DIY approach. I did DIY. I was a very reluctant DIYer. That's a story for another day. But with that, you need to come in a little bit prepared with a few things, right? So we need to know at base, when did your ancestor naturalize? What generation are you in relationship to that ancestor? What kind of names are on these documents? What is the line coming down? The complexity becomes, right? No longer can you go multiple generations back. No longer are naturalizations allowed. So it's really important to determine which one of your ancestors did not naturalize, who remained solely Italian throughout their life, who, if they've passed away, they were Italian at their death. And I've seen the questions, and I get this all the time. Wait. My mom naturalized, but she's still alive. Can she renounce her American citizenship? Can she renounce her Canadian citizenship? Grandpa became Italian. He's really, really old. He's a little bit sick, but can he renounce his American citizenship to pick up his Italian citizenship? Technically, yes. Italy wants somebody to be only Italian. However, the complexity lies in you might make grandpa stateless. He might pass away without a nationality. So timing is very critical. These are very delicate situations. And the Italian government has done this on purpose to make this situation really unattainable. Excuse us 1 second. I'm going to send Guillermo off camera to pick up a little dog. So anyway, the first place we want to start is by determining that eligibility. And so we have genealogists on staff, and we can also refer you to an external genealogist to assist you with. My apologies for that. That probably broke. That probably was a little bit high. So we have genealogists that can help you determine where those documents are and what you're going to need for those documents and determining eligibility. So next, let's talk about some more questions. How many generations can you go back? We covered that, right? 2 generations right now is just 2 generations. Big common misconception still that we have out there, right? Is it true that women could not pass down citizenship before 1948? This is really common, so let's clarify this. Women could not automatically pass their citizenship down to their children born before 1948. So if your grandmother was born in 1912 and your grandmother had a child in December of 1947, your grandmother's child, your parent, born in December 1947, did not automatically acquire Italian citizenship because she was born from an Italian woman before January 1, 1948. Okay? So that means you're going to have to go through the courts for recognition. However, if grandma born in 1912 had that same child January 2nd of 1948, you are clear. You can go to the consulate, you can move to Italy, or you could apply in the court through an against the queue. You would not be a 1948 case. Okay? So January 1, 1948, that's the line. If the woman gave birth before January 1, 1948, go to court. If she gave birth after, then you're going to the consulate, the comune, or the court. Okay? So I think those are, that's kind of a big question that we get, and that's still kind of confusing with this new law. That has not changed. Okay, that has absolutely not changed. Women who gave birth before 1948 still have to take the case to the court. Okay?
Right.
And this is a big part of what we do, right, in these 1948 cases. What makes the 1948 case different than a Iure Sanguinis case? Is there a difference technically that the courts see, or is this brought to the courts because of the discriminatory nature of the laws at that time?
Well, this has been a constitutional construction, so that it has been recognized by the courts when there was no coverage by the law. Then it has been built on a direct application of the Constitution. So that is what makes it so special. On the other hand, it makes it also gives you more flexibility in that sense for the judge to accept the case. So I think that is still a big advantage if you have a 1948 case.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? So the judge, because that's a little bit of a different case, being discrimination, has a bit more discretion. So if you have that 1948 case, then there's a bit more viability. The judges have a bit more latitude there. So we have a question that someone just popped up. Given the latest decree on dual citizenship, have the number of applications decreased, therefore making the process a bit quicker to move through the court? Well, no. Actually, what's happened, and Guillermo can talk to this, but no, court times have increased. The caseload in the courts have increased significantly. If you still qualify and you have a pathway through a parent or a grandparent, where it has become much faster is by moving to Italy and applying in Italy. And our team helps with that. That's what I do every day, is help people move to Italy or move to Spain, but specifically move to Italy and apply for citizenship and take them through that process. That has increased. We're also seeing the consulates start increasing the amount of time it's taking them to get through the applications that they've been sitting on. Unfortunately, they've been rejecting a significant number of them. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But courts, what are you seeing in the courts as far as cases, caseloads, questions from judges?
Well, on the one hand, there is the caseload increase, especially when before the court fees were to increase. So there was, before December, lots of cases were presented, and that has increased the backlog. On the other, simultaneously, what has happened is that the courts have complicated, make it more complex, the process requirements. So every of the 26 different jurisdictions may have different regulations, different way of treating cases, and they have increased their grounds or the reasons for inadmissibility and become more formal. This is a way of tossing out cases so that they can deal with less. And also the human resources, despite the increase in court fees, they haven't increased the number of judges. So the same number of judges are dealing with more and more cases, make it a little more harder. However, it all varies among the different jurisdictions. That means that maybe in one jurisdiction, a case can take still 1 year and another can take 3.5 years. So all depends jurisdiction by jurisdiction and may even depend judge by judge. So it's all very, very fluid situation.
Yeah, and so this is kind of interesting what we've seen, right? Is we saw in December, we were filing cases. In fact, we filed a case for my family. I am recognized, my daughter is recognized, but the rest of my family is not. And they've decided to go through the court case. They were not able to get an appointment at Chicago Consulate. We tried for several years and they could not do it. So we filed, actually, I believe it was like December 28th, we filed an against the Q lawsuit for my family here in Palermo, at the Palermo courts. That court date was only 9 months out in September. Okay, so in December, court dates were about 9 months in Palermo. Then we saw the new decree hit March 27, 28. And so immediately our team filed cases that day. One of the cases that we filed happened to be the Palermo courts, filed March 28th. That Palermo court date came up in June. Okay, so what happened there is there was a judge who was pulling cases, cherry picking cases, and pulling those cases forward to hear them as test cases. So the judges do have some discretion, but typically, your case is going to be 9+ months out. Palermo, Messina, some of these smaller courts are a little bit faster. When we get towards the north, when we get into Venice, the Veneto courts, yes, we're looking at 3, 4, 5 years because of the number of Italians who emigrated out of the country and the people that want to come back. Okay, so this is important to know that there are 26 different courts, and all 26 courts have a different caseload.
Yes.
But it's not just the court caseload, because then you have a judge caseload. And we have a couple of courts that are kind of special. So, Guillermo, tell us about, is it the Genoa court that has a judge that's been indicted?
Yes, there was a judge over there that was the general prosecutor in another jurisdiction. He got condemned. He's still awaiting some
Sentencing.
sentence. Well, the sentence is already there, but execution of the sentence is still exhausting all the procedures. And he was demanding very, very weird extra requirements, and like applying a previous code before the 1865, and criteria like if the the lira had ever intended to return.
Yeah.
So this kind of and declaring the inadmissibility of some cases according to those criteria.
Yeah, and so this is kind of interesting, right? So here's a judge in Genoa who's been convicted of a crime, who has been sentenced to a crime, is awaiting the actual execution of the sentence. Sorry, that sounds like we're going to execute him. He's not being executed. It's not like that. But he's waiting for that sentence to actually happen. So in the meantime, he's still on the bench, and so he's putting in new rules. He wants to see new documents to see that your lira intended to actually return, that your lira just went away to make some money, stabilize the family, and then to come back, right? And so this is creating these weird delays. New cases are not being assigned to this judge. So yes, if you happen to be in Genoa, you're going to get into the court queue. You might get assigned to this guy, but you can't get a court date because he's busy over here fussing around with the Napoleonic Code rather than current Italian law, right? So each one of these courts is very particular. Yes. And one of the things I will say, a big shout out to my team, right? Sorry, I just touched the microphone. Is our team goes that extra mile to investigate each one of these judges, each one of these courts, each one of these cases, so that we prepare the cases specifically for the court, for the anticipated judge that we're going to get. And this is really important because I sat through a symposium last year where I listened to the president of the Venice courts go on for an hour about how he wants to see perfection. And if you have perfect documents, then he's happy to rubber stamp and move on through. Now, this was before all of these changes, right? But that's what he was looking for, where somebody else was looking for something different. So we have to remember we're dealing with humans. Yeah, it's definitely hot here, although it's not as hot today. But yes, thank you. It's a little warm. So let's move on and let's talk about visas. Let's talk about options, right? If you've been blocked out of citizenship, one, my heart is broken for you. This is really hard. As I said, the rest of my family, including my son and my grandchildren, are not recognized. So this is very personal for me, that I have two grandchildren that may never be Italian. We own a home here. We live here. This is our life. And so it breaks my heart that my grandchildren, that your children, that you may not be able to become Italian citizens through this process. It's going to be a bit of a fight to get you there. But in the meantime, we want to help you move here. We know that that's the first start, is let's get you here. And so let's talk about visas a little bit. You want to stay a little bit longer than 90 days. U.S. passports, most of you are probably American or Canadian. You have 90 days to be able to travel into the EU without a visa. You can just use your passport for that. But let's say you want to stay longer, 6 months. What do? Not much. A visa is not going to help you for 6 months. 9 months? Visa is not the right answer. 1 year or more, the visa is the right answer, right? So visas can be a little bit complicated, but they're not impossible. There's just a few things that the country wants to know about you. Let's start with what's easy. Who are you? Obviously, you're going to need to prepare your passport. You're going to need to write a bit of a letter explaining who you are, why you want to be there. you're going to need to prove that you're not a criminal, right? Countries want um, people that are compatible with their society and that are going to bring something positive to their society. So we're going to have to get a criminal background check, right? Then we get into the financials. And this is where it can get very complicated, okay? Depending on which country, and we can work on visas in Portugal, in Spain, in France, in Italy right now. We are expanding and building more partnerships out, but this is where we're at right now. Each one of these countries has a slightly different visa program, okay? So the first thing we need to do is we're going to get on a call with you and we're going to talk about your financials. And I know this is an awkward conversation. It could be a little bit uncomfortable. And we respect that, and we know that, and we, take the utmost care. All of your data is protected because this is sensitive information, and so we work in a system that is secure with your financial information. But you're going to have to prove to this new country that, hey, I can afford to come here, I can afford to live here, and contribute. When you're coming in with a visa, you will be a taxable resident, okay? You are going to establish residency. So we also need to make sure that you understand your tax implications. And this is going to be where your finances not only help you get approved for the visa, but also help you stay legal by being tax compliant. So our role is to help you put together a meticulous application. And along with that application, it's to help you find the right place to live. Okay, so one of the things that we really love doing is going out and helping you with a property search, helping you with a location search. This is something we've done for ourselves. This is something we've done for many, many of our clients because we have had our Apply in Italy program going now for 4.5 years, that we know how to help you find a home. Okay. And so we want to break this down step by step with our team, both in Italy, US, and in Spain, that we have a base. If you're looking at Portugal, if you're looking at France, or another country that we might be able to work with you on, then of course, we're going to help you get the right support that you need as far as that goes. Can you switch that back? Yes. And so we're going to help you go through that process. Now, I want to talk a little bit about a visa that I really love. Can you pull that screen back up? A visa that I'm really loving right now is for Spain, for digital nomads. And this is great for our applicants that are still working. They're still maybe running a business or doing some type of activity. Spain has a really interesting digital nomad visa. Not only can you apply at the consulate, and you would get the traditional 1-year visa to be able to live in Spain, but we can also assist you skipping the consulate, flying straight to Spain on your US passport. Once you get to Spain, you're going to live in an Airbnb for up to about 30 days. When you get there, we're going to apply for your residency. We're going to skip the visa and immediately go right to the residency. Now, what does that do? What that does is that, one, skips a step, skips some of the waiting time. But two, this is really exciting, it gives you 3 years of living in Spain immediately. You immediately come into 3 years. When you go to renew at the end of the 3rd year, 2 years is the renewal. At year 5, you're applying for that permanent residency, continue living up to 10 years, meet the additional qualifications. You can now apply for Spanish citizenship. Okay? That's really, really exciting. And it's a cool program in Spain. And this is why I like Spain's visas. They do not require you to have housing in place before you apply for your visa, whether you're applying at the consulate or whether you're applying directly in Spain. You can arrive in Spain on temporary housing, and when you get there, we can go through the process to search out your home, find your home, get your lease, negotiate that, register it for you, and this is what Abogado Iso here does with his partner Adele. to get you legalized, right? This is very different than Italy's visa.
It's a much more friendlier system, so that it makes it more flexible, because the main intention is to attract interesting people, professionals that can adapt to the Spanish system.
Yeah. And so, right, you're going to be living, working in Spain. You're going to have your visa. You can sponsor your spouse. You can bring your children. It's all fine. Spain's entry financially is also much lower, which is great. It's right about 28,000 for the primary applicant, and then about 8,000 for each additional. So about 28,000 for Guillermo, add another 8,000 for me. If we had a child, add another 8,000. So it's a much lower entry to barrier. Italy is a bit different with their digital nomad visa. I like it. We're glad they finally have it, but it's not the easiest visa to get. It's built off of the EU Blue Card, okay? And the EU Blue Card is a program designed for very highly skilled workers. So you're going to have to prove degrees. You're going to have to prove work experience. You're going to need to make more money. Your spouse is not necessarily going to be able to join you immediately when you come into Italy. In addition, you will need to have housing arranged before you apply for the visa. And this could be a financial constraint for many people because, right, if you have to have a visa, or I'm sorry, if you have to have a lease, a home to live in, you either need to purchase a home without knowing if you're going to get the visa, or you need to enter a rental contract, which means a deposit, 3 to 6 months worth of rent with a landlord, making sure that our team negotiates in an out clause in case you are not approved for that visa, right? But you're going to be paying rent while the consulate is considering your application in Italy. And this can be financially a little bit much for some people. And for me personally, it's a little bit scary sometimes. So our goal is always, when we're working with you, is to advise you based on where you are in your life, how we can get you where you want to be. And so we may have to make incremental steps. Your goal may ultimately be Italy, but maybe right now your finances are saying more Spain. Great, let's go to Spain. It's beautiful. You're going to be able to visit Italy. In a couple of years, as your income increases, as you make those next thresholds and want to get into potentially signing into property for contracts before you can really live in it, we can do that. But you have some options, okay? This is the important thing to know. Spain's entry barriers are a little bit lower in that way. Same with the non-lucrative visa in Spain for retirees or for people who are on fire. We have a lot of clients that are fire or fire lien. Those are great to go to Spain. It can be a little bit more difficult in Italy. Italy is going to want to make sure that you are actually not working anymore before you apply. So you're going to have a lag time of at least 3 to 9 months before you can apply for that Italian visa with no income or living off of your annuities, living off of your retirement income, and having that structured in a very specific way. And I will say, I mean, this is one of the things that we find really exciting about this, right? Is, we've been doing these things all along, but now we can really talk about the differences between Italy and Spain, right? And
yeah, it's very different. I think Spain is, compared to Italy, it's less traditional, is more open, is more modern, is more foreign friendly. And because it has Spanish, which is a language that is always very familiarly recognized in the US, also it's closer.
Yeah. And this is really great, right? We just got off a call with one of our clients who, and actually 2 clients back to back. Both of them, unfortunately, fall outside of the decree. They want to take a little bit of time to think about, whether we move forward with citizenship on that and what happens with the Constitutional Court hearings, but they're ready to move and they want to be in Europe. And so the first place we started talking was naturally Italy. But as we talked through this process, right, with them, it became more and more clear that maybe Spain was a better option. One couple, they had a small child going into school in the next year, And so, right, a lot of great international schools. I'm a former teacher. Many of our staff are former teachers. The school is always really important. There's some great international schools in Spain, quite a few more than there are in Italy. And so that's a consideration. Our other couple, right? Our other couple, business owner, one spouse, the other spouse is in a career transition. Italy was going to be very difficult to ensure that we could keep the family together because of that nulla osta problem that Italy has. Spain doesn't have that problem. The spouse, the business owner spouse can sponsor the transitional other spouse. So this is really cool. And I think, as we began talking to them, right? Both couples said, well, I already speak Spanish fluently. Easy, right? We have this need. We have this medical issue. We have this. From living in Spain, and Guillermo, always kind of giggles a little bit, but I always say the reason I don't live in Spain is it's too easy.
Well, yeah, it's we like it some little bit of the old that tradition that Italy brings. But well, yeah, you can combine both, and maybe first you try Spain, and later, if you can always take a Ryanair to Italy, there are so many, so that's not so difficult.
Exactly. So, in my opinion, right, and this is the place I lived first, was Spain. Spain is a very easy transition. It's beautiful. The food is wonderful. We've got a beautiful sea, although it's not as beautiful as in Italy, I would say. The food is not as good, but it's still really, really good. Spain is modern. Spain has organization. Spain is going to be a lot less of a leap for many people than Italy. Same with Portugal. Portugal, from the first time I went to Portugal in about 2014, Portugal at that point was, kind of still a bit newer. The golden visas were just kind of taking off. It was still very, very affordable. Over the next 9-10 years, Portugal has exploded. So now Portugal is really great to go to because you've got a lot of English speakers. You've got a lot of Portuguese that are speaking English, so it's a lot easier transition in. But Portugal's been a little bit tricky because they've had so much popularity that now they're changing their visas. Now they're changing some of their systems. So we're kind of putting a little bit of a pause there, but that is a really great place. Spain still, is at the top of my list as far as that great place to live for quality of life. You're looking for that La Dolce Vita, that really beautiful. What is the saying? Is there a saying in Spanish that would be like La Dolce Vita?
No, we don't have that, but we just say also we have to live day by day. So at the end is all about enjoying every day, and like work is there, but also you have to enjoy life, not waiting for the weekend.
There you go. Don't wait for the weekend, right? That's sage advice from Guillermo. So we'd love to take a couple of your questions. So if you want to post your questions, that would be great. In the meantime, I am going to try to find my document because I did have a little something to keep me on track here, right? So what about when you get here, right? What do we do? What happens after you arrive? We went through the process. Either you applied for citizenship or you applied for a visa. That's been arranged. Now what happens? Well, there's a whole new series of things that are going to happen. We've got you covered, right? Services like setting up your tax code. If that's in Italy, it's going to be that Codice Fiscale. If it's in Spain, it's going to be the NIE. If you are an Italian citizen already and you decide you want to move to Spain, we can of course assist you with that. The difference would be if you're going to Spain, you're going to get a TIE, okay, because you're an EU citizen. So you're going to do a TIE instead of an NIE. Everybody's going to need residency registration, okay? Residency is something that's really different than in the US. We don't have this concept. Residency lets the town and the national government know that you're there where you are. Because remember, in Europe, we have national health care. So our governments need to allocate doctors, hospitals, nurses, planning and services based on the population. So you're going to have to register for your residency, and that is a very formal process, but we're going to be there. We're going to take you through that. If you're coming on the visa, again, you're going to have to go through a little bit of an immigration appointment. No big deal. That's that permit renewal to get that long-term stay. You're going to need banking. Banking is always a very interesting thing. I will tell you, I still don't have my Spanish bank account. I've not figured that out, but I do have my Italian bank account, which is very exciting. In fact, I have two. Banking as an American is a bit of a nightmare. And this is not the fault of any other government other than the US and the IRS. The US, for us US citizens, we have a lot of oversight from the IRS. So we're going to be limited primarily to those larger banks that are able to handle the IRS reporting guidelines. What does that mean for you? That means when we're setting up your bank account, it might take 2, 3, 4, 5 visits, because a lot of times the local office cannot do it without approval from the main office. And that main office may be in another city. There may be several steps that they have to go through. They may ask for more documentation than your normal Italian friend who's not a U.S. citizen. They, thought it was so easy they could just set up a bank account, but now why is it taking so long for you? Well, it's complicated because of the IRS. Know that that is an American problem. That is not a Spain problem. That is not an Italy problem. That you brought that with you from America.
That's it. Yeah, it's a lot easier,
right?
And among Europeans, but with America, it's a little more of a hassle. But like everything, with time and preparation, you can also overcome it. It's not impossible.
Yeah, and it's not impossible, and we're going to be there, right? So you're going to have one of our guides there holding your hand all the way through this process. We're going to be there translating. We're going to be there making the appointments. We're going to be there throughout the whole setup. Yeah. You might want to purchase a car. You might want to lease a car. Healthcare enrollment. This is really important. When you're coming in with a visa, you're going to come in with a specific insurance package that is designed for a visa. It is basically the bare essentials. It's going to cover you if anything happens. It's going to be low cost, typically between about 300 and 500 euros for the year. 300 to 500 euros. Let me repeat that. 300 to 500 euros for the year of insurance. No copays, no deductibles, no exclusions. Typically, you'll have to wait about 6 months before you can get an elective surgery, but you can get surgery before that, right? We're going to get you signed up for your health insurance, that basic policy first, before you're a resident, to be able to apply for your visa. Then once you get into the country, your residency is finalized. Now you can apply for the Cadillac plan. And let me tell you, the Cadillac plan costs the price of a Fiat Panda. You're looking at under 1,000 euros per year for full coverage insurance. You get cancer, you're covered. After a certain period, you're going to be able to apply on that national health care, but that's going to take a little bit of time. For most locals, Guillermo, what do you do for insurance? You have national health care, of course.
Yes.
And what do you recommend? What do you have personally?
Personally, well, I have in Spain, I have a Agrupación Mutua, which is a quite big one. And it's very flexible. I have no obligation to continue another year. I pay, it's around 85 a month. So it's very reasonable. And with that, I don't have to copay anything. So I get the top clinics in places like Madrid or Barcelona. And I got surgery for that. You can get an MRI. If you got an emergency, you don't pay anything also. And it has a great network of clinics. Compared to anything that you have in the US, it's science fiction, I think, that, in terms of cost. But it's very efficient, very clean. You go to the best places. Sometimes, depending on where you have to go, you may have to wait a little bit because now it's a bit more. There's more of a delay and more of a backlog in doctors in Spain. However, nothing compared to what people complain about in other systems. So it's pretty efficient, very good. and many of the doctors also work for the public sector. So they work for the private, they work for the public, and it's also a question of you're choosing what do you want, where, and how. But it's fantastic. I think it's a great system. By experience with lots of surgeries, well, not lots, but some surgeries done.
He's not a medical junkie.
Yes, but I can say that with safety that it's a very safe system.
Yeah, and so what you're saying is you not only have the national health care, which is no additional
Yes,
charge
no
other
question.
than your normal taxes, but additionally, you as a Spanish citizen have a private policy that's about 85 euros per month
Yes,
for Cadillac Care.
yes,
Guillermo hooked me up with that insurance when we were living in Spain. Funny story. I went to the emergency room. I called him. I said, I have to go to the emergency room. I don't want to walk there. I took a cab. It cost me about 10 euros to get the cab up the hill to the private emergency room. Private emergency room. I went in, registered my name. I waited about 10 minutes, got called back to a room. Doctor came in. Actually, it was an Italian doctor, so it was really lovely. We spoke a little bit in Italian, a little bit in English, a little bit in very bad Spanish. Took care of my problem. He leaves. He had handed me, the prescription and everything else. We had done everything. He leaves. I'm standing in the room. I'm redressed. I'm just waiting. Nobody's coming. I'm just waiting. Finally, I peeked my head out. I grabbed somebody and said, hey, I need to take care of this. Like, I need to pay. Where's, the lady with the cart so I can give them my credit card? What are you asking for, lady? I said, well, I need to pay for my visit. I need to pay for this visit. And she's like, no. Get your clothes on and get the hell out of here. So I go and I go up to the counter because I seriously cannot believe this at this point, right? Because I've had one of the main reasons I left the U.S. was after a medical crisis. I've been in U.S. emergency rooms, and one of the first things they do is a lady rolls in with a cart, and she says, hi, I'm here to get your insurance information and collect your copay. And nobody's done this yet. And I'm like, well, I've already seen the doctor. Where's the lady that I pay? So I'm at the front. I'm waiting at the counter. And they keep seeing people. I'm like, hey, I need to pay you. And they're like, no, it's free. It's good. Your insurance took care of everything. You have nothing else to pay. Go home. This is how healthcare works here. It's crazy.
Of course, they also have copay systems. If you want, you pay less.
If you want.
Yes.
If you want. But literally, I am a 52-year-old woman. And I paid 990 euros for a year of insurance with zero copay, zero deductible, although I could not have an elective surgery for the first 6 months. This is crazy, right? So healthcare is very good. You can have private, you can have public. So let's talk about this. We've got a couple questions here, right? Let me back up. Okay, I'm going to hold on this one, living Noto gracefully. I'll be back to you in a second. D. Marlena, if we decide to obtain residency in Spain, then receive national health care, I think you answered my question already. Is pre-existing conditions covered? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a U.S. thing. We're so trained on these things. It's crazy. Living Noto gracefully. Let's go to this question now. Does insurance cover functional medicine practitioners? I don't know. Can you explain functional medicine practitioners? I'm not sure. Do you mean like acupuncture?
It depends on the insurance. It is more widely accepted as part of treatments more than before. It's also limited, depends on the insurance package, but there are at least some of these that are more and more included as additional therapies and treatments for some cases. So yes, I would say that there are more. You have to check on the small letter of this on each insurance. So some may not, but more do now than before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, is just check your insurance. And this is something we can help you with.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a great thing about having Avocado ISO here. That was a weird mixture of Italian and Spanish. This is wine in the afternoon. When all my languages blend together. But this is something Guillermo's going to help you with. Guillermo and Adele, they're our Spanish team. They're going to help you make sure that you get the right insurance for you. I do know from experience, right, going to physical therapy, not a problem. You've got that.
Yes.
It's really, really fantastic. Yes, to obtain national health insurance, of course, yes, you definitely need to have residency because residency is going to tie to your taxes. Your taxes
Yes,
are paying for
yes,
national health care,
yes,
right? Nothing in life is free. Somebody's going to be paying, tax dollars pay for the insurance, but this way it's equalized. We all have access to insurance
yes.
by paying taxes. We can layer on top these extra plans. I will tell you, here in Italy, I do not keep a private plan. In Italy, I am purely on the national healthcare plan. I've considered back and forth, and I probably will eventually get a private policy, but my experience in even going to the doctor, both with the national healthcare, typically I'm seeing within about a week to week and a half. You are assigned a primary doctor, or you choose a primary doctor, and that primary doctor, it's kind of like an old-fashioned HMO. They're going to act as your gatekeeper. They're going to refer you out, but typically they can get you in pretty quickly. Now, when I wanted something very special, right? I'm a 52-year-old woman. Let's just be honest. I'm going through perimenopause. I had a brain injury a couple of years ago. I have some weird stuff going on, right? So sometimes I need to go to a doctor that speaks really clear English or that can work with my schedule because I work both Italian and US hours. So I have a very weird schedule. So I've seen private doctors and I've just paid out of pocket. To give you an idea, I went to a doctor. I had ultrasounds done. I had blood tests. I had the visit, all kinds of things. It was 350 euros out of pocket. Now that was a women's healthcare specialist, and I went to a menopause specialist. So she was a little bit more expensive, but this was great. She worked with my schedule. She saw me. My appointment was at 8:30 p.m. because that's what worked for me. She made sure to arrange with the blood. I can't think of what they're called when they take your blood test, right? She made sure to arrange that all of that was available for me with my hours. She saw me within about 3 days of making that appointment, which was fantastic. And so that's been the experience. We've had clients who have been here in Italy or been in Spain who have fallen and they want to get an x-ray to make sure nothing's broken. You're talking 25 euros for an x-ray. You're talking about 150 to 350 depending on where you're going for an MRI. Full panel blood count, going to a local clinic, paying out of pocket cash. You can get a complete blood count for about 60 euros. The cost of medical care is just so reduced. But honestly, the biggest thing I've noticed, and Guillermo, you can even, vouch for me on this, is I don't have to see the doctor as much because my stress is down. Yes. The quality of food that I am putting into my body is so much better. I'm not putting all those chemicals. I'm walking a lot more. So I'm seeing doctors a lot less. And so my healthcare is also moving up in the quality of my care as well as the quality of my life. So it's really, really interesting to see that. Sorry, now we're going to have Guillermo pop up here.
Sorry.
Sorry. We are remodeling our apartment that's in Sicily, and so we have contractors coming out all day long. So my apologies. I'm going to move and show you guys a different location that's a little bit quieter. So let's talk about this. Okay, so we have a question. We're going to find out on the functional medicine. You're going to tell us a little more about that. Residency, yes. Is there a need or demand for certified medical interpreters in Spain? Is there a need? Absolutely. And there is demand for that. I know, with our clients, what we do a lot of times is we send one of our bilingual team members to doctor's appointments. Our bilingual team members, if you're a client of ours, then you're going to send us a message and let us know then you need to go to the doctor. We're going to take care of making the appointment for you if you like. But
See?
also, we can go ahead and attend that appointment with you, depending on where you're located, because many times we do go to appointments and interpret for our clients. But I'm not sure who posted this, but if you are a certified medical interpreter, please reach out to me. I would love to have your contact. All right, I think we lost audio. Are we here still? So guys, we are going to wrap up for today. Thank you all for attending. It's been really beautiful. We'll see you again next week, but next time it's going to be cocktails for you guys. All right, bye guys. Have a great day. Please reach out if you need anything. We're happy to help. Bye. Oh. Say bye.
Bye.
See you later.